Father Joseph Hirsch from the Office of Vocations. Young people will often ask when I come into a classroom, not just about vocations of the priesthood, but they'll ask a question like this: Father, what's your advice about dating? I say, well, here it is. Don't be surprised it's coming from a priest. If you don't pray as a couple, don't ever get serious. That's as if I gave them something impossible to do. They look at me like, whoa, how can you do? Think about it this way. If a guy is about to be ordained a priest and you ask him, do you pray a lot? And the guy says, no, I really don't pray at all. I can do what a priest does, so I think I'm ready to be able to be a priest, but I really don't pray. Impossible. It's a contradiction. You cannot be a priest if you don't have a life of prayer. And I would like to challenge married people in the same way. If it's impossible to be a priest living that sacrament without prayer, how can marriage be lived without prayer? Either. And therefore, how important it is, that piece of advice. If you can't pray together, don't ever get serious. What are some ways? We'll divide this up in a couple of videos, but here's one. This first one, this is a way that a number of young people, and I find more and more, are doing something like this. They write a letter to their future spouse. It might be at the end of a chastity talk when they're 16 years old. I'll use the example of John. John writes a letter. He says, Dear Lord, and to my future someone, I learned tonight in this talk on chastity how important it is to prepare myself in my vocation. And Lord, I want to make this commitment to you, but I also want to make this commitment to my future someone. I don't even know your name, but I want to tell you a couple of things. I want you to know that I prayed for you before I knew you. I loved you before I knew you, and I was faithful to you before I knew you. You can go on with the letter telling about different things about yourself, but that is the essential part of the letter. You write that letter this year, and then next year, maybe on Valentine's Day, or might be your birthday, then you write a letter again. I'm now 17 years old. These are things that I've learned about life and about love. These are things that I've learned about friendship, but I want to share them with you now, because someday I'll be sharing with you in person. But I repeat again, I prayed for you before I knew you. I love you before I know you. And I am faithful to you. And every time I date, I always keep in mind that ultimate person that I will share this with. This goes on for a number of years. Let's say the guy is about 23 years old and he finally writes this letter. He says, Dear Linda, love that sound. Last night I proposed to you and you said yes. I now know your name. I'm looking forward to the day that I can share with you my soul, these letters that I've written over these years. He'll find just the right time. Might be close to their wedding, might even be their wedding night. But he shares with her this treasure. What is she going to know? That this man has been preparing for all this time. I had a number of students do this. One young man came to me a year after he graduated from high school. And he says, Father, I didn't learn anything in your class. Well, thank you very much. But then he said, I did learn one thing. And he said, the thing that I learned is I want to be able to say to my future spouse someday, I prayed for you before I knew you. I loved you before I knew you. I was faithful to you before I knew you. He said, I had many chances to be sexually active. I wasn't, because I want that to be in mind. That's what, when somebody writes this kind of letter, they are preparing in a formational way. If God is calling you to marriage, we need holy marriage. But reflect on that piece of advice. If you can't pray together as a couple, you can't live out the sacrament. If you can't pray together as a couple, don't get serious. Be friends. Thanks for listening.